All right, welcome back. Today we are going over letter 33, which is on the futility of learning maxims. I like this letter a lot. There's a lot of good wisdom in here. All right, he says in verse 1, if you wish me to close these, you wish me to close these letters also, as I closed my former letters with certain utterances taken from the chiefs of our school. But they did not interest themselves in choice extracts. The whole texture of their work is full of strength. There is unevenness, when some objects rise conspicuous above others. A single tree is not remarkable if the whole forest rises to the same height. So what he's saying here is he's saying, look, yeah, that last letter, I didn't leave you a little thing from Epicurus, and you noticed that, okay? And you want me to close my letters just as I did, okay? But here's the thing. Okay, you have to understand that these guys that I'm quoting here, mostly Epicurus, but they didn't interest themselves in just a little extract. Okay, the whole texture of their work is full strength. So you can't just take a little piece of it and think that that's important. Like this is why he's saying, like don't rely on these maxims, don't rely on sayings or quotes. It's ridiculous. Okay, there's unevenness. Okay, when some objects rise conspicuous above others. Okay, so. And he's given this example. He's saying a single tree is not remarkable if the whole forest rises to the same height. And this might seem like a bad thing. You might be like, well, then that doesn't make everything unremarkable. No, in the sense that like that single tree isn't remarkable. If you understand that all of the forest is full of trees and there's all of these trees, then you don't think a single tree is remarkable, right? Instead, you understand that the forest is remarkable. That's what he's really saying here. All right, in verse 2, he says, poetry is crammed with utterances of this sort, and so is history. For this reason, I would not have you think that these utterances belong to Epicurus. They are common property and are emphatically our own. They are, however, more noteworthy in Epicurus because they appear at infrequent intervals and when you do not expect them, and because it is surprising that brave words should be spoken at any time by a man who made a practice of being effeminate. For that is what most persons maintain. In my own opinion, however, Epicurus is really a brave man, even though he did wear long sleeves. Fortitude, energy, and readiness for battle are to be found among the Persians, just as much as among men who have girded themselves up high. Okay, so he's saying here, look, here's the deal that you need to understand here, all right? There's plenty of these examples of these little pieces of stuff that people take out of the whole of the work, okay? And he's saying that, look, these quotes I'm giving you, they don't belong to Epicurus. I've told you this many times, all right? They are common property, okay? They belong to us just as much as him. They are knowledge. They're wisdom, all right? However, the reason why I quote Epicurus, he's saying, is because they're more noteworthy because they're not as frequent, right? Epicurus, he doesn't have all of the things quite right, but when he says some of these things, they're things that you wouldn't expect, right? Because it's actually surprising that these kind of brave words would be spoken by a man who many people consider to be effeminate. So I guess, Epicurus was more effeminate at that time. Okay. And he says, but that's what other people maintain. He says, my opinion is actually that Epicurus is a really brave man, even though he wore long sleeves. So a knock on him for wearing the long sleeves. Let me see. We can see what the notes say on this as far as Stoic as well as Epicurean. That was for the who it belongs to. The long sleeves contrasted with alti sintos, the sleeveless and girt up tunic, is a sign of energy. So the effeminate Caligula would appear in public with long sleeve tunic and bracelet. So that's considered an effeminate thing at that time in that culture, right? And so he's saying there, look, I think he's brave, right? Regardless, right? And he's saying that because he's Persian. And that it's still because the Persians wore sleeves, right? It doesn't matter. That doesn't make them weak. It doesn't make them more effeminate. It doesn't mean that they don't have bravery, right? And so and that's kind of just a side point here. But he's saying that the reason why these quotes from Epicurus are so interesting is because it's not what you would expect from him. So that's why he likes to quote those things. All right. He says here in verse 3, therefore, you need not call upon me for extracts and quotations. Such thoughts as one may extract here and there in the works of other philosophers run through the whole body of our writings. Hence, we have no show window goods, nor do we deceive the purchaser in such a way that if he enters our shop, he will find nothing except that which is displayed in the window. We allow the purchasers themselves to get their samples from anywhere they please. So what he's saying is look, I can basically take any quote, all right, and it's valuable. Right? I don't just put the best stuff up in the window and then there's no real substance in the store. Okay, he's saying there, you could pick whatever you want, whatever you want. All of this runs through all of the philosophical works. It's the whole body of the writings that's important. These are just pieces that we're picking out that we're talking about, but they are not the thing that is most important. That's not what we're trying to do here. Okay, and he says here. Suppose we should desire to sort out each separate motto from the general stock. To whom shall we credit them? So he's saying, okay, so let's say that we're going to try and pick this apart, and we're going to say, okay, of the works of Stoic philosophy, let's pick every single sentence, every single piece, and we're going to say who does it belong to. So he's saying to Zeno, Cleanthes, Chrysippus, Penetius, Poseidonus, we Stoics are not subject of such a despot. Each of us lays claim to his own freedom. Okay, with them, on the other hand, whatever Hermachus says or Metrodorus is ascribed to one source. In that brotherhood, everything that any man utters is spoken under the leadership and commanding authority of one alone. Okay, so let's talk about this here. Okay, so he's saying again, like I said, should we just take everything and try to say who said what? No, he's saying we're not. We can each lay claim to our own freedom. We can each say whatever we want, and we don't have to say, oh, well, this person is the person who said this, and this is right. He's saying with them, on the other hand, and them is the Epicureans that he's talking to. Okay, he's saying with Epicureans, this is what happens. Okay, what happens with them is that they claim who said this. Okay, and it's ascribed to this one source, and then everything is under this commanding authority, right? Of one alone, right? And so this is the idea that there's a head of this, that this is the right way to think and this is the wrong way to think. Now, again, obviously, Stoic philosophy has some things that are particular to it, right? And so there are some things that, but the truth belongs to everyone. It's not just this person is the authority, and so whatever this person says is scripture. Okay. So he says here, we cannot, I maintain, no matter how we try, pick out anything from so great a multitude of things equally good. So he's saying, only the poor man counts his flock, right? So he's saying, look, our stuff is so good that we can't pick out anything that is the best out of that, right? And he uses quote, only the poor man counts his flock, right? So if you're a poor man, then you have to know, what do you have? But if you have plenty, then you don't have to worry about that. Okay, and this is from Ovid, is where he got that quote from. Okay, he says, wherever you direct your gaze, you will meet with something that might stand out from the rest, if the context in which you read it were not equally notable. Okay, so he's saying, no matter where you go, you're going to find good stuff here. Okay, and he's saying, if the context in which you read it was not equally notable, so you're going to find some stuff that stands out. If it's not just the whole thing is good by itself, right? So it's like if you're highlighting our philosophy with a highlighter, you'd highlight the whole thing, all right? That's what he's basically saying, all right? He's saying for this reason, in verse 5, give over hoping that you can skim by means of epitomes the wisdom of distinguished men. Look into their wisdom as a whole, study as a whole. They are working out a plan and weaving together line upon line a masterpiece from which nothing can be taken away without injury to the whole. Examine the separate parts if you like, provided you examine them as parts of the man himself. She's not a beautiful woman whose ankle or arm is praised, but she whose general appearance makes you forget to admire her single attributes. So what he's saying here is really important, all right? He's saying, look, here's the thing, okay? Do not take pieces of stuff and then look at those things and study those things. Don't break, you need to look at the whole work, right? The wise men who are writing these things, okay, they are weaving a plan together. They are putting together a masterpiece. It is not just a part. It is the whole thing that is meaningful, okay? So yeah, you can examine the separate parts if you like, but you have to examine them as parts of the main thing, as a piece that gives some context to the main understanding of the thing. And he gives an example of a woman, right? A woman's not beautiful if she just has a beautiful arm or ankle, okay? But her general appearance makes you forget to admire her single attributes, right? So it's the same thing with the Stoic philosophy and the writing. And this is just important in general, right? So many people take quotes from people, and they don't understand the full work of the thing, right? So how many misquotes are there, or how many people we have clips today where people are misquoted, and it's just understand what the person is, the man, the character, right? We can take news bites of people, and we can vilify them or demonize them because of something that they said, instead of understanding the whole of who they are and what are they really representing, right? In verse 6, he says, if you insist, however, I shall not be, I won't use the word just because I don't know what YouTube's going to do with it. So if you insist, however, I shall not be, we'll say, what's another way of saying this word? I shall not be stingy. We'll say, if you insist, however, I shall not be stingy with you, but lavish, for there is a huge multitude of these passages. They are scattered about in profusion. They do not need to be gathered together, but merely to be picked up. They do not drip forth occasionally. They flow continuously. They are unbroken and are closely connected. Doubtless, they would be of much benefit to those who are still novices and worshiping outside the shrine, for single maxims sink in more easily when they are marked off and bounded like a line of a verse. So he's insulting people that are just quoting pieces of stuff. Okay, he's saying, look, you don't have to worry. There's so much wisdom here. Okay, that you don't have to just pick the good stuff out. It's all the good stuff. All right, they don't just come out occasionally. They're flowing continuously. Okay, and they're unbroken and connected. So these things, you cannot take a piece. All right, and think that you have some kind of wisdom just because you can quote something. That's not good. All right, instead, understand the full philosophy, right? Which it was the same with this, right? You could take, there's a lot of Stoic quotes I like, sure, that's fine. But we're reading these letters and we're breaking these down so that you can fully understand this stuff, instead of doing what most people do, which is just to take a quote from these letters and then think they understand Stoic philosophy. No, you don't. I'm sorry, you don't. You need to understand all of this in order to understand Stoic philosophy. Okay? You can't take a shortcut. He says here in verse 7, that is why we give to children a proverb, or that which the Greeks call chira, to be learned by heart. That sort of thing can be comprehended by the young mind, which cannot as yet hold more. For a man, however, whose progress is definite, to chase after choice extracts and to prop his weakness by the best known and the briefest sayings and to depend upon his memory is disgraceful. It is time for him to lean on himself. He should make such maxims and not memorize them. Okay? So he's saying, look, yeah, we do this for children so that because they don't get it. They can't understand the full works of a thing, but we can give them an easy phrase to say that they can remember. Okay? But a man shouldn't do that. You don't need that. You should understand the full works. You can comprehend the full works. So don't just choose some choice extracts. Okay? And he's saying that it's like propping up your weakness. Okay? And depending on your memory, that's disgraceful. You need to lean on yourself. You should make maxims, not memorize them. You should be making statements, not memorizing things that other people have said. Okay? So he said here, for it's disgraceful even for an old man or one who has cited old age to have a notebook knowledge. This is what Zeno said. But what have you said yourself? This is the opinion of Cleanthes. But what is your opinion, your own opinion? How long shall you march under another man's orders? Take command and utter some word which posterity will remember. Put forth something from your own stock. So this is probably the most important part of this letter. He's saying here, look, okay, it is disgraceful to just have book knowledge. Okay? If you start quoting, this is what Zeno said, this is what this person said, right? That's worthless. What is your opinion? I want to know, what do you think? I want you to form your own philosophy, right? How long are you going to keep on marching under another man's orders to say, oh, well, so-and-so said this, right? No. Come up with your own philosophy of life. Read the things, read even Stoic philosophy, and yeah, quote it, sure, that's fine, but come up with your own. What is your own reasoning? Why do you believe this thing? What is it that you understand about this? Now, I don't want to know what someone said about this. And this is what we do so much in life. And if you really want to understand things, if you really want to have a depth of understanding, do this, right? In fact, this is what I'm doing as I'm recording these letters. I'm not just telling you what is written here. I'm interpreting it, right? I'm putting my own spin on it, okay? And I create my own philosophy as I do videos on my other channel, and I develop my own maxim, my own things to say, right? And you should be doing the same, right? That is really what you should be doing. And this is so important because so many people just read and they never write. For this reason, I hold that there is nothing of eminence in all such men as these, who never create anything themselves, but always lurk in the shadow of others, playing the role of interpreters, never daring to put once into practice what they have been so long in learning. They have exercised their memories on other men's material, but it is one thing to remember, another to know. Remembering is merely safeguarding something entrusted to the memory. Knowing, however, means making everything your own. It means not depending upon the copy and not all the time glancing back at the master. So what he's saying here is he's saying that, look, you need to gain actual understanding, okay? You can't just read stuff and quote it back. If you truly understand something, you don't have to recall it from memory. You know it, so you can talk about it. So if I ask you, okay, what is Stoic philosophy? You don't have to give me some quote about it. You could tell me. You could say, well, Stoic philosophy is all about separating yourself from the external and making sure that you do not attach to the external so that the things that are happening outside you do not affect you. It is about only wanting what you already have, only wanting what you need, what nature requires of you, which is just some basic food and shelter and clothing. That's it, right? That's what Stoic philosophy is about. Stoic philosophy is about reaching the end goal of happiness, of tranquility before you die and learning how to die well, right? So again, I can talk about these things because I understand these things. If you can't talk about these things, you don't understand Stoic philosophy yet. That's fine, but that's why we're studying this and learning this. But the goal of it is not for you just to be able to quote it. It is for you to actually know it yourself. So if someone asks you a question, you should be able to answer that question without looking at a book and without quoting something from memory. He's saying here in verse 9, thus said Zeno, thus said Cleanthes, indeed, there will be a difference between yourself and your book. Let there be a difference between yourself and your book. How long shall you be a learner? From now on, be a teacher as well. But why, one asks, should I have to continue hearing lectures on what I can read? The living voice, one replies, is a great help. Perhaps not the voice which merely makes itself the mouthpiece of another words and only performs the duty of a reporter. So again, he's saying, look, don't just learn, teach. And this applies to you. It applies to all of us. Don't just learn, teach. Okay? There should be a difference between what you've read and yourself. Okay? How long are you just going to keep on learning? Right? Now you should become a teacher. Okay? And the thing is, all right, what's valuable is not just repeating what someone has said. It is interpreting it. It is actually having your own thoughts and your own opinions, okay, rather than just being a reporter. In verse 10, he says, consider this fact also. Those who have never attained their mental independence begin, in the first place, by following the leader in cases where everyone has deserted the leader. Then, in the second place, they follow him in matters where the truth is still being investigated. However, the truth will never be discovered if we rest contented with discoveries already made. Besides, he who follows another not only discovers nothing, but is not even investigating. So let's break this down. All right, so you're saying here, look, okay, here's the thing to consider. Those who have never attained their mental independence begin, you start out this way, in the first place, okay, by following the leader in cases where everyone has deserted the leader, okay? So, essentially, you start out by listening to someone and listening to what they have to say, even when other people disagree, okay? Then in second place, so as you advance, they follow in matters where the truth is still being investigated, where we don't know the answer. But they still lean on this person's opinion on this. But he's saying, however, the truth won't ever be discovered if we already are content with what's already been discovered already, okay? Because if you're just following another person, okay, and you don't discover anything, it's not even investigating. You're not even figuring out what is true. So you can't just do that. You need to actually step up. In verse 11, he says, what then? Shall I not follow in the footsteps of my predecessors? I shall indeed use the old road. But if I find one that makes a shorter cut and is smoother to travel, I shall open the new road. Men who have made these discoveries before us are not our masters, but our guides. Truth lies open for all. It has not yet been monopolized, and there is plenty of it left, even for posterity to discover. Farewell. So he's saying, look, just because someone said something, including myself, including Seneca in this case, does not make it always true. If you find something better or a better solution to a problem or something that is more true, then say it. Then, he's saying, yeah, I will lean on what knowledge people have given me and have discovered so far. That's fine. Okay, but if I find something better, I'm going to talk about the thing that's better. I'll open the new road. All right. Then he's saying that those people who have come before you, they're not your masters. Just because someone invented something or came up with something does not mean that they are so much more right than you. They're guides. Think them as guides, right? Again, if you're approaching this Stoic philosophy, you're approaching what Seneca says as the gospel, as he's always right, and he had the most efficient way of doing things and the most correct grasp of human nature and philosophy. That's not the way to do it. He's a guide. He's helping you down this path so you can discover an even greater truth. Okay? He's saying its lies open to all. It's not yet been monopolized. It never will be. There's plenty left to discover. So go out and do it. I'll see you tomorrow.